I saw the posting about your award. What does that award mean? So for people that don't know, what does that award mean?
Yeah, so the award is all about each year a dissertation is recognized for its level of quality and also its level of criticality and the importance and what it can do in the future for the world of early childhood. And so my dissertation, all about critical race theory, but was titled When They See Us, the representation of Black and brown males in children's literature. And it focused on two books, one written by a Black and brown author and one written by a white woman, and just looked at the way that Black boys are represented throughout these stories and how racism and power was kind of like played out in the pictures and through the words and stuff. And so, I mean, I guess I did a good job. Like,
your dissertation is going to be history making.
It's going to be history making, and it's changing the world, not only for like kids and Black boys, but also like the world of publishing. Because I mean, the stuff out there about Black boys right now, I mean, some of it's good, but also some of it's trash and some of it's not good and it's harmful. And, you know, I'm bringing light to it. And so I guess the world recognized that this work has to be done, and hey, I got the award for it. So kudos to Georgia State.
Kudos to you. Kudos to you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, go back to the title of your dissertation. Say that.
Yes. So the title is When They See Us, the representation of Black and brown males in children's literature. And I got that from, of course, the movie. I'm obsessed with Ava DuVernay. And when I saw her film When They See Us on Netflix a few years ago, it kind of inspired me to do a lot of different things. It inspired me, one, to tell the story of us. And when I say us, I mean Black men, and the story and the narrative that surrounds us. And those narratives constantly around us are often harmful and demeaning. And when I wrote this and when I thought about the title, I asked myself, what do I want this paper to do? And what do I want this story to do? And what I wanted it to do, I wanted it to open up light that Black boys and Black men like me, not only can we be joyful and happy and be courageous, but we also can engage in this really critical scholarly work in a space that is often not accepting of us. And so in higher education and academia is a dominated white industry and a dominated white field. So as a young Black man going into this space and doing this critical work here in Georgia, especially like critical race theory in Georgia, y'all know it's a struggle down here.
And we're gonna talk about it.
We gotta talk about it, listen. But I wanted this paper to serve twofold. So if you actually look at it, the dissertation is very unconventional. It's scholarly, but it's also it's me. I have one chapter that talks about, it's called Change Ain't to Isn't. And this is ideas that as Black people, we use our Black vernacular. And I use the word ain't all the time. That's the way I write. And so that's the way I talk. So when I was writing my dissertation, I said, in order for me to fully show up and be who I am, I can't change the word ain't to isn't, which is the quote unquote grammatically correct term. And so I named that chapter Change Ain't to Isn't because oftentimes as Black people and as Black men, we're told to code switch, right? We're told to like, you go into these spaces, make sure you put on your little white voice, make sure you put on your proper outfit and your attire. But why do we need to do that? Because when we do that, we're then putting racism back on ourselves. And what we're saying is that who we are is not good enough. And I'm good enough. And every Black boy around me is good enough too. And every Black woman, every Black person around me is always good enough. And so this dissertation, When They See Us, I want this paper to serve as a fabric, like a creation of who we are as a culture, but also show the joy, the love, the pride, and the work that needs to happen around who we are and who we are as people. I'm big into liberation, and so this is my form of liberation for me in my dissertation place. So that's where it came from.
Okay. And you have mentioned the work several times. Like, why is this work and this focus and this emphasis on allowing us to, show up as our true and authentic selves? Why is the emphasis on that work so important? Why does the world need to allow us to be free in that way?
Because people are telling our stories. People are controlling our narratives. I always say the one thing you have in life is your name and the narrative that is around you. And you can control that narrative, but it's all about who tells that story. And oftentimes in our spaces, we as people, as Black people, our voices historically have been oppressed, right? And so people who tell our stories are often not cultural insiders. Perfect example. We think about the Peter books, Ezra Jack Keats, right? We love Letter to Amy. We love these Peter books. It's the first time a Black boy was in books, but he's a white man writing about Black children. And I always say, like, it's one thing to write a book about a Black kid, but can you tell me, like when I wake up next morning, can you smell the curling iron? Can you tell me what the curling iron smells like when it hits the side of your head? Or can you tell me what it looks like when you get up on Sunday morning, your mama's bumping that church music, the old school R&B? Like there's a certain element and a certain authenticity that comes with that. And I think that oftentimes we don't have the space to tell our own stories, and we have to tell our own stories. And we're in a space right now where, as Black people, more awareness is being brought to the limitations and oppressions around who we are and our voices, and who's really authentically doing that work, and who's doing this work for the people and for the culture, and who's doing this work for the check and for the money, because that's two different mindsets and two different approaches. And so this work is important because, one, liberation. I don't want to see any of the Black boys to have the same experiences I had growing up. I want them to be able to see themselves in the pages and the books that they read. I want them to be able to see themselves in the teachers. I want them to see themselves as a scientist and entrepreneurs and a businessman. I want them to see themselves as being the future president, the new Barack Obama, you know? And so this work is important because if I don't see myself as that, what do I have to dream? And I think oftentimes we forget the importance of dreaming. And if you can't provide children with imaginations and models and spaces and visions and representations of what it looks like to be great and to dream, what are we doing? And that's why this work is so important, because we have to inspire kids to be great and to dream and be happy and joyful and to care about who they are. So
I also heard you mention, I don't want people to have to or kids to experience the same things that I experienced growing up. Yeah. So what in your lived experience fuels your passion for this work and for this topic?
I never wanted to be a teacher. And it's funny that I say that, because I think it's my life. When I first started school, I wanted to be a doctor, because of course it was like, oh, doctors make money. But I remember, I was a boy from the south side of Augusta, and I had to work. I didn't have the opportunity to just go to school and not work and just live. I had to go to school full-time, work full-time, and my first job was in a child development center. And I applied for multiple jobs over the years, and during this first few months of being in school, and I didn't get any. But there was a Black director at this child development center, Dr. Stacy French Lee, who I hold dear to heart. She believed in me, and she said, I want you in this classroom. I know you're looking for a job, and I want you in this classroom. And I'm like, I've never taught before. I don't know how to deal with kids. I don't know how this is gonna work. She said, but you showing up as who you are is all you need to do. And I will never forget the first day I walked into the classroom, a little boy named Justin, he looked at me and he was like, what are you doing in here? And I'm like, first of all, you in preschool. Let me ask him what I'm doing here. But I was like, I'm your new teacher. And he was like, boys can be teachers? And I'm like, yeah, they can be teachers. But that moment right there was like, he had never seen a male teacher, and probably let alone seen a Black male teacher. So me simply being in this space had done something so powerful that I couldn't even attach words to. And I remember after that day, I went to the academic office and I changed my major to Birth through 5 education. And that is where I am now. So what fuels me is this, the idea of being present and the idea of seeing yourself in someone. Because when I grew up in a real small town. I was the minority as far as race and sexual orientation and all kind of things. And I dealt with a lot of hurt. Yeah. And I felt like that hurt was not only because I was different, but I also had no one to relate to and to connect with and talk to and to share those same backgrounds and understanding. And so with me and my identities, that moment let me realize it's more than just opening the book and reading and teaching the standard. It's you being here in this space and being present, because as a teacher, not just teaching, you're that person, you're that everything for that child. 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, you are that person for a child who gives them comfort, who gives them love, who gives them passion, who gives them knowledge, who gives them guidance.